All right, welcome to Words of the Wise. Today I have Senior Manager Mildred Betancourt. She is a part of the Public Safety Unit for the city of Irving in Texas. I am so excited to have her as a guest, and this is maybe a little bit different than our normal episodes, but she is in charge of this public safety unit that is independent from the PD. It's independent from the fire department, and she's doing incredible things within the city of Irving. So I'm really excited to share her insights as to how she did this. So, welcome to the show, Mildred Betancourt. And I want you to say your last name because I know that I butchered it and I apologize. You say it so much more beautifully than I can.
Well, the pronunciation is Betancourt. Its origin is French, but no one pronounces it. It's Betancourt. Betancourt is fine. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me and having me here. Uh, Talking about the Public Safety Wellness Unit in the city of Irving is obviously one of our passions, and we hope to impact so many other departments because we know that there is a need for services for our first responders and their families.
Absolutely. And I'm honored for you to be here. And, we talked a little offline. And so I know a little bit about what you guys do, but I would love to share all the ins and outs with anyone who's listening today. I wanted to kind of rewind and get to kind of the start of how this all happened. And I know that there was an event that happened in 2017 that kind of eventually led to the creation of the public safety unit. Are you able to share maybe some of the things that happened in the past that led to where we are today?
Absolutely. It was 2016 when one of our officers died by suicide, and that prompted the urgency to have something in place for our officers, our police officers. I was a police employee back then uh, at a different department. And when the urgency to develop a peer support program began, I was brought in a group of other individuals around the department, other clinicians, myself, to basically build up or develop the peer support program for the police department. By August of that year, we had the policies, procedures, and I was asked to oversee the peer support program. And so I was the peer support coordinator. That's how I got involved. That's how we started in 2016. We started in August. We got trained in SISM, and we were confronted, I guess, or we experienced our second catastrophic loss. We had an officer that same year in August um, die in a motorcycle accident. And so basically we became active and involved as a peer support program from the beginning. The program developed, we provided services to both police and fire for about 2 years. And in 2019, the fire department requested to officially become part of our peer support program. And obviously, we welcomed the fire department. We were already providing services to them um, and extending our services to them anyway, so it just became official.
Mhm.
In 2019, I had a 40-hour job at another department. I was, like I mentioned before, and so the fact that I was volunteering with the peer support and the peer support program was being utilized, and we were gathering data, not just providing critical incident stress management after a critical incident. We were providing one-on-one support. We were providing support to other agencies within the DFW because we had a program. So other agencies that lacked or didn't have any resources, we were called in and we were providing services as well to other agencies. So 5 years into the program, I recommended that th- both fire and police hire full-time peer support members to run the program because we had the stats, we had the numbers, there was a consistent increase. So the trend that we saw for 5 years was consistently increasing in services. Um, we also were able to um, prove that in a number of cases, peer support had been involved and effectively um, uh, intervene in what could have possibly ended in suicide or another tragedy for the city. And so because we had all that information and we gathered all that data for 5 years, the both fire and police chiefs, they recommended that the program be run by clinicians. They were short-staffed, so they couldn't afford um, to allot part full-time police or fire to run the program. And so I was tasked with the well, I was given the opportunity. I was given the opportunity
They're like,
to
you need to do
I,
it.
I was given the opportunity in it was around March or April of 2021 to look for the funds and to write a proposal to develop a wellness program.
Mm.
And so I did. And in June of that year, we presented the project, we presented the program. City manager got behind it, supported it. He understood, he understood the need. We had the facts, we had the numbers to prove that there, not only the need, but the effectiveness of the program. And shortly after that, I had the opportunity to present the project to the city council, and they also supported the program and got behind it. So October 2021, the Public Safety Wellness Unit became a new department for the city of Irving, completely separate from both fire and police. I was mentioning before that that aspect of our program has pretty much is what separates us from any other wellness program that I know of. And we did get a recognition through the Destination Zero Award, uh, not just because of the comprehensive program that we run, but also because of how we are structured.
Mm.
Um, Based on the trauma-informed care principles, safety is paramount in every situation. But when you consider the complexities of working with first responders, safety is even more crucial.
Yeah.
And so I I have to say that part of the success that we've had is because the component of safety, knowing that they are coming to a unit that is not reporting directly to their chief of police or fire, is it's in my opinion, in opinion of many others that have heard of our structure, um, it's I think one of the main reasons that they are utilizing our program. We are a 3.5 year, we are in 3.5 years of our unit, our new unit, and I just hired a part-time clinician to help also because our program is being utilized. So many programs are reactive. Peer support programs tend to be reactive in that when there's a crisis, we have something, we react to the crisis. And if that's the only thing you can afford, is that the only thing, especially smaller agencies, kudos to you. You have something there for your people. But our program, in order for us to be more effective or any wellness program to be effective, uh, we go a little bit beyond, we go beyond the being reactive. We are proactive.
Mm.
And so part of the development of our services starts with identifying the needs of our first responders and their families, and how we can best serve and 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 be effective in satisfying those needs. Be reactive and proactive. And so we structured each and every one of our programs and services under three categories. They are either primary intervention, secondary intervention, or tertiary intervention. And so what we want to do is start to educate and train our new recruits from even before they hit the streets, even before they are officially sworn
Mhm.
in the police side, in the fire side. They go through an inoculation training, and that is our main and our primary intervention. So we want to be able to equip them with information so that when they go through a critical incident, um, they have information that will help. Um, it will help them understand there is help. I know where to reach out for help. I have the resources here. The city provides me the resources, and not 20 years later.
Yeah.
And so the secondary prevention programs that we have in place are then, well, the situation is here. There is stress, there is PTSD, there is anxiety, there is depression, you name it. Well, we have these interventions to minimize the severity of the symptoms that you're already experiencing. Tertiary, the chronic, we mostly see in more veteran officers who are now reaching out and possibly contemplating retirement. Well, we want them to have a full, satisfying life after.
Mhm.
Uh, and we provide them with also interventions and case management, and we refer them out. And that way we cover and we are holistic in the sense that we also provide yoga for first responders. So we look at the physical aspect. We provide financial training. We work with the family, the immediate family member. So um, the silent recipients of the first responders' trauma, they're there. And we are also focusing on the entire family as a system. We provide biofeedback and neurofeedback, EMDR, grief counseling, and so supportive counseling. I mean, there's a situation they're it's causing them stress. Come in, let's talk about it. And so uh, we also provide quarterly trainings to our peer support to continue to equip them to be more effective, because they are the face of peer support. They are the ones interacting with their peers outside of the wellness unit. We provide trainings to new sergeants and captains on the fire side. And we keep ourselves pretty busy here in the office.
I was gonna say, you don't sound busy at all. No, that's a lot. Really great stuff. I wanted to ask you, kind of going back to the very beginning of everything, when you first formulated this peer support team out of need and urgency based on, the current conditions of what the organization was going through. Were you surprised by the receptiveness of people reaching out, or how did you create that environment or that culture within the organization where people were feeling that sense of safety and that trust to reach out to you guys? Because I know that, through a lot of conversations with other agencies, sometimes it's hard to build that trust and that culture where, people are actually utilizing those resources. How did you build that in the very beginning? And, we know that that obviously eventually translated into what you're doing now, but how did that initial buy-in start?
I was surprised. We were all surprised. Um, one of the things I remember when I was working in the counseling department, the police uh, would also come in and use uh, the break room. And so we interacted with them and and as counseling manager back then, I had an open door policy for our counselors and interns. And when I started working with the police, I extended that courtesy to them as well. And I said, hey, I have an open door policy. You don't need an appointment whenever you're in the break room or in the office, or just stop by. And that's pretty much how it started. It was almost like a very casual conversation. It wasn't forced. It was just, this is who we are. This is what we're doing. Um, we I, I also have to attribute the fact that the peer team that we recruited goes through a series of onboarding processes. For example, uh, they have to understand and they sign an agreement and understand how important confidentiality is. They understand that there is a separation of roles when I am your buddy versus when I am peer support and acting um, as your peer support. And so we pretty much ingrained in them the importance of confidentiality, no matter who wanted the information or requested the information. They had, well, the state of Texas actually considers any critical incident under the critical incident stress management umbrella confidential, and allows that any intervention under CISM be considered under the same umbrella as psychologists, counselors, doctors. So the state of Texas gives, in that sense, peer support. I don't know if the word of authority is
Yeah.
the correct word, but it is, gives peer support the authority to say, I can't share that information. Um, and so that's we did a lot of training and a lot of education, and we continue to do that around the importance of confidentiality and trust.
Yeah.
So obviously there was skepticism, yes, distrust, and we still see that. I'm not naive to think that we have won over the entire department. That's not the case. Have we made a dent? Absolutely, more than a dent.
Mhm.
Um, and so it's a process, but we have seen the results of being consistent. And here we are, 4.5 years later, expanding services because whether still a few individuals frown upon mental health, many others, starting from 2016, at the end of 2016, we implemented the inoculation training. So we have been providing inoculation training and inoculating 9 years, not 9 years, I'm sorry. Um, yeah, almost 9 years.
Time.
uh, of new recruits. So this new generation that's coming in the past 9 years, what they're listening is, in the city of Irving, we can talk about it. In the city of Irving, mental health is important.
Mhm.
I don't have to feel ashamed because I feel a certain way or I think a certain way. I have the ability, the skills, I have the resources. So we have 9 years of slowly changing the culture. I don't know if it's going to take another year to completely change the culture, but we are seeing the changes and we are reaping the fruits of that investment in the new recruits that are growing up uh, as first responders in the city of Irving.
And I love that you, and some of the things that you talked about before that I wanted to kind of circle back to. I love that you talked about proactive and reactive because we know that there has to be both. And I love that you're saying, okay, how early can we introduce these concepts? How early can we introduce this education? How early can we introduce resources in the career? And starting at an academy level of saying, hey, like, you are going into a career that is going to be stressful. You are going to see hard things, traumatic things, and we are here to support you proactively and reactively during those times. And we are a safe space that you can trust if and when you need those things. And so I love that you mentioned that because I think that proactive wellness is always going to be harder than reactive. But you do have to have both. And I love that you also use the word holistic. And I know that maybe that's still a word that is hit or miss with receptiveness, but it's taking a look at not only a holistic approach of resources, saying, okay, like we know that everyone isn't going to gravitate towards the same, all the same things. So how can we have lots of different things so that people feel like they're supportive? But then saying, hey, like we also want to take a look at not just the officers, but also their families, not just physical wellness, but also financial wellness, not just mental wellness, but also nutritional wellness. So how can we have all the different components so that they can thrive, whether they're at work or at home. So I thought that that was a really great focus that you guys have. And I know that in talking to you offline, you said that this was a group effort. And this was something where, you had the support from the PD, you had the support from the fire department, and you also had support from the city, but you also had to show metrics and really kind of show everyone, as far as funding and getting the program off the ground, what that return on investment was going to be like. And you shared kind of what you did with me, and I was hoping you could share that and kind of dive into what that process looked like. So if there is someone who, wants to follow in your footsteps and try to adopt a program like this, what are those steps that they can take to get that approval and get the ball rolling?
So I initially um, started to get educated on peer support program, tools that I needed. And I attended a number of symposiums and conferences. And I attended a symposium where someone mentioned statistical information from one-on-one and peer support and how they gather that information. And I thought that is perfect. That is absolutely necessary. But this is back a few months after we started peer support. So um, I was lucky or blessed that I came upon that information very early on when we started peer support. So I had 5 years of data. I developed spreadsheets. I developed a form, and I sent out the form to all the peer members. And on a monthly basis, they return the form. And the only thing the form reported was if it was a worker, a co-worker, or a family member that they provided one-on-one services during that month, of male or female, and the type of issues that they helped or intervened with. Anything from marital conflict, divorce, to depression, anxiety, finances, chronic illnesses, you name it. And so they reported on a monthly basis. I emptied that information or transferred that information into a spreadsheet and accumulated that information the entire year. And that's what I presented to both chiefs every year. At the end of the year, this is what we did this year, including how many critical incidents the peer support had helped or assisted with in-house and to other agencies that requested our assistance. So I had all that information, all that data, And so when I was tasked with the idea of developing and convincing others that this program was necessary, was needed, I had the data.
Mhm.
So if anyone is thinking about starting or has started, it's never too late. It doesn't have to be complicated. The form is very easy. Actually, if they access the Destination Zero Award and look at the 2023 award winners, we uploaded our forms on that website, and it's accessible to anyone who wants to look at our policies, procedures, our job descriptions. It doesn't have to be complicated, but if you only have the ability to find one of those work champions that is willing to start, then start gathering data on what that person has been doing. So that way, when you need to make your case, we need more help, we need more resources. This is what we've been doing. You have that information at hand.
I love that. And I'm sure that that was a lot of work over 5 years of gathering that data. But I think that there's a few questions. One is, what is the goal? What is the goal with these programs? And the goal is to save lives. It's to promote longevity, right? It's to make sure that your most valuable assets, which are your employees, have the tools and resources they need to thrive on and off the job. And so that's the goal. And I know that the question is, okay, well, how can we quantify the success of the resources that we're putting in place? Because we all have that shared goal of supporting the employees, the officers, the dispatch, fire, PD, everyone within the organization. But how can you measure the success of those programs? And I think that's a question that a lot of people ask. And I think that a lot of times, because you don't have those data points and you can't quantify that ROI or that return on investment, a lot of times those programs aren't funded because it's like, well, how can we justify that if we don't know how successful it's going to be? And so for you to say, hey, like we gathered this data and we know that it's successful, we know that it's helping people and that it's reducing the risk of suicide, we know that it's prolonging careers. That to me is kind of a no-brainer,
Yeah,
when you go and you show
exactly.
5 years of data. And so that's what you did. You put together the spreadsheets, you went in front of city council and you presented all of this and said, hey, this is what we want to do. We want to create a separate public safety unit that is its own department with its own, you have your own building, correct? Or your own space within a building?
Yes, separated, completed. So that's the other component of the safety and privacy.
Mhm,
That we are not housed at City Hall.
mhm.
We're not housed at any building owned by the city of Irving. It's a private building, and it's a building with many, many, many offices, other businesses. And it provides them with the healthy separation
Yep.
and privacy. So unless you tell someone you're coming here, no one's going to know just by you entering this building that's an office building. And so that's another component that was very important for us, that the city consider um, a space separated, completely separated from City Hall.
And the city is, they approved the funding for your program, but you have control over the different resources that you're putting out there. So you have your own independent budget. You're providing the resources completely independent from anybody else.
Mhm. Yes, we are part of the city's general budget. I have to present a budget need every year. Um, we are under the city manager structure, specifically under the Strategic Services Office. And so we present our budget just like everyone else. It gets approved or it doesn't get approved. But again, presenting our budget, presenting the need has to come with the facts. This is why we need it, because this is what we're doing, and this is what we plan on doing in the next fiscal year. Um, and so to answer your question, yes, we have our budget is separate from both fire and police as well.
What advice would you give to someone who is maybe wanting to do something like this, or maybe some of the question marks that you might hear of like, oh, well, we don't have the money or the support or the time. Like, what is some advice that you could give to someone who um, is maybe wanting to do something but doesn't know how, or maybe doesn't feel like they can?
Um, so to be honest, I don't think anyone starts off knowing exactly what they want or how to achieve it.
Mhm.
I think what we did have in common was we don't want to go through another suicide.
Yeah.
That was the main motivator. If we have something in place to minimize the likelihood of ever having to go through this, that was the foundation.
Mm.
That was the motivator for us to then start doing research throughout the country and abroad. We looked at Australia, we looked at England, we looked at a number of departments that had some sort of peer support program. We then gathered all those different policies and procedures and uh, took what we thought our Irving culture, it would work for the Irving local culture, Irving culture. And we developed our policies and procedures, right? Um, we had individuals that for years were uh, requesting, they were highlighting the need. So we reached out to those individuals, and those individuals were still interested in being a part of this program. And so what motivated us was
Mm.
the pain of losing someone. We didn't know how. We figured it out by reaching out to people who had information, and we took advantage of that. And then we asked people who had expressed uh, the want, the need to help their fellow officers, and brought them in and then provided training. When you consider when you consider someone's life, you make the time. So if you don't have the time, that shouldn't be an excuse not to start something. I think when you weigh someone's life and the value that this program brings, not having the time cannot outweigh this priority. Not having the resources, we didn't have any resources when we started. We had the human resources, right? We had people that were motivated and committed to doing something. And so again, I go back to find that individual or individuals in your department. They may not know, they may not have the complete plan, but they do have the motivation and they do want to help. Bring them in. And the third hurdle, the number one, maybe the time constraints or the lack of uh, human resources that in the money. Well, we didn't have any of that, right? We didn't have money either. We started as a volunteer program. I wasn't getting paid um, for this. It was all volunteer. So I think we need to do a soul check.
Mhm.
We know that more officers die by suicide. We know that there are so many statistics out there, so many programs that have been created just to track. Um, uh, so it's not a novelty. We know that there's a need. We know that there's a problem. And so a life is worth fighting for.
Mhm.
A life is worth investing time, effort, and yes, money. if that's what it takes. Because if you compare what it's going to cost, not only the department, but the entire city, what's it going to cost? Or what does it cost the city or the department when one of their own takes their lives? Imagine how much you can also save if you have something that could possibly or could have possibly um, avoided that.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to uh, start weeding out and clearing out what, like you said, what is the goal here?
Mm.
What is the goal? The goal, number one, is to save lives. Number two, um, to be able to have something in place for our first responders and their families to have quality of life while on the job, but also after. After they serve, they deserve to also live and have quality of life. And so that is also part of the goal. But the main goal, yes, to save lives.
I agree with you. And I loved that you said a soul check. Like we need to have a soul check for a moment. And I agree that and here's something that I live by a lot. I think that if you have a strong enough why, if your why is strong enough for what you're doing, the how becomes easy. And
Mhm.
it's not, maybe not easy, but it's possible, right?
Doable.
And it's worth it. And
Mhm.
so, like, I think it's taking that moment to step back and, like you said, what is the goal? What is the why? Why is this important for us? And it has to, like, really mean something to you. Like, you have to really be invested in that why. And then the how is possible. It's totally doable. It takes effort for sure, and time, but it can be achieved. And I like that you also mentioned retirement. I think that we often forget when we're talking about wellness, it's like we don't just want people to survive. And yes, we do. We want people to survive, but we also want people to thrive. You know, there's a step further to that. It's like, how can we save lives? How can we get you to survive this job? But how can we get you to thrive? And that's well into retirement. And we know the statistics for that too. And it's a really like there's that statistic to me is so sad. The life expectancy after retirement is so sad to me because you have these men and women that dedicate their entire lives to serving the communities and putting their life on the line every single day and sacrificing their wellness and their home life. And they get to the end of retirement and have a few short years. And, you know, statistically, and how can we change that so that you have as many years into retirement as you did on the job? And beyond that, you're able to actually enjoy those years. You get to spend time with your family and travel and fish as many lakes as you want, or, run around with your grandkids. And so I think that the goal, of course, is, to save lives, but then also how can you ensure that everyone else is thriving as a result to that? And I think that if you can connect back to that why, that's going to make everything else fall into place.
That is your north. You
Mhm.
have that why, and that you use that as your north, and you maintain your course.
Absolutely. What is your hope for the future, whether that's for other organizations, or within, your department and what you guys are doing? What is next? What is your hope for the future?
My hope is to continue to, in some way, motivate other departments, agencies, to hopefully follow emulate our program, or maybe not, but something about our program that motivates them to start something in their respective agencies. Um, what's what's next for us is to continue to hone in and expand and work with the family as a system,
Mm.
not just the first responder. I want to be able to continue to bring in more spouses, uh, the children up to the age of 17 is it's our limit, so that they can also benefit from this program. So that's my second goal. And my third goal, which I'm currently working on, is um, part of the hurdles and difficulties, and we've heard this many, many, many times, is the lack of culturally competent mental health clinicians. And so what I'm doing, and I've started this year, is offer a specialized practicum for PhD students to start getting their getting their feet wet before they graduate. So we have certification programs now for counselors to gain cultural competencies to work with first responders. We don't have anything that prepares our mental health professionals prior to them graduating. So focusing on working with universities to start considering the idea of offering, just like we offer family therapy as an option, play therapy as an option, uh, trauma-focused therapy, and different types of interventions at the university level. So that way, at minimum, this mental health professional, when they graduate, they have practicum programs, classes, or certification, whereas they don't have to wait 5 years into the profession to start gaining that cultural competency. And so that's now my that's what I'm focusing on. So hoping to also gain some traction there with the universities. And I have two universities that I'm working with right now and hope to expand that. And we are starting our new our program, our new practicum program in August.
That's great. Because
Mhm.
I do hear that across the board that that's a challenge. And especially as you get to more rural areas where people are like, there's no one out here that has any sort of experience or understanding into how to work with this population. And it's challenging for them because it goes back to what you said of that trust. And we know that if there is someone who understands and has that cultural competency, the walls start to come down a little bit and they feel more open to talk about things. They feel, more receptive to resources and to seeking resources. So I think that that's great. And it goes back to the joke I made earlier. I'm like, you're not busy at all.
Exactly.
I
But
love.
I enjoy every minute of it.
Yeah, no, I can tell. And I appreciate your time so much. I have one final question for you. And this would be more geared towards the first responder. In the context of wellness, what advice would you give them? Someone maybe who's earlier in their career when it comes to wellness and seeking wellness resources.
Um, Again, I think it goes back to what's important for them. I think it goes back to them understanding how important this job is, but also how this job will affect them.
Mm,
And being able to stand their ground and understand my mental health is as much as a priority as my physical health is in order for me to be successful in this job. And they don't need permission, but sometimes we have to give them permission to reach out for help. So my advice to them is they have to understand, or again, prioritize. If you want to be a success in this profession, and I know they all want to be
mhm.
successful, it's going to take more than just going to the gym and exercising your physical body. It's also going to take you to be intentional in working on the emotional, psychological, and spiritual health as well. And so understanding that that needs to be a priority as well, I think is my main concern for them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's been an honor. I appreciate your time and your expertise, and thank you for sharing about your department and the programming that you have and, how you got it off the ground because it is really unique. We talked about this before, but I haven't heard of anyone else who's doing it in the way that you have, and I don't think that you know of anyone else who's doing that yet either. So it's a really interesting and obviously successful program. And I hope that anyone who's listening, it gives you some inspiration and maybe some new ideas on what's possible.
I hope so too. Thank you so much. This was
Yeah.
a great opportunity, and I'm honored as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you.